hit the share button. The SPA will be very grateful. It is great to have you along on Pop Astro Live, Planet George and Bath Astro special. Heads up, literally everybody, Robin has just emailed me to say that a halo coronal mass ejection is heading for the Earth. Another CME is heading for Earth. This one seems to be better aimed than the disappointing Halloween storm cloud a few days ago. Minor to moderately strong geomagnetic storms are possible on the 4th and the 5th. That's from the Space Weather magazine website. Actually, to be honest, I don't know what a halo CME is. Does that mean it's going to form a halo when it hits the poles? That sounds like it could be right. If a learned astronomer could fill me in, I'd be most grateful. Hi, everybody. Plug the mugs, plug the mugs, plug the mugs, plug the mugs. I've got a confession to make. We're in a very unusual situation tonight that a water main has burst in downtown Triada Bay. And the only water we've got in the house is the dregs of a cup of tea. And it's Johnny's mug. And I couldn't make a brew in a Pop Astro mug available from the Pop Astro shop. So basically, I'm two-timing the Pop Astro mugs with a tepid, decaffeinated cup of tea with rings around it. So please don't be alarmed if you see me drinking from the wrong mug tonight. But Pop Astro merch is available. Christmas is a-coming. You know what that means. Time to start getting your prezzies. Okay, so the stars and the gas giants are aligning on this week's Pop Astro Live, starring Simon Holbeche from Bath Astronomers. He's got the whole beach in his hands on the Herschel Museum and Planet George. Also, Bath Astro is our Society of the Week. We're going to be learning about their outreach, the white light in their logo, and what to do when eyes glaze over on a talk. Check yourself, astronomer. Are you talking too much? There's a high chance you are. Sketchbooks at the ready. The SPA's David Graham. He's our lunar section director, but tonight he is moonlighting with the gas giants. He's going to be giving us a tour around them. They're well placed for observing at the minute, and he's going to be showing us how to sketch. Also, I realized last week it's been a while since you've had a musical treat, and I have written a song about Uranus. Will it be a sensitive, gentle ode, or will it be a wild, clattering journey of musical mayhem? Only Cosmo has the answer, and the first person to spot him tonight wins a little kiss, a little fluffy kiss off Cosmo. He's been out in his little straw-filled spaceship, visiting far-flung places, and towards the end of the evening, you have to guess where he's been. Oh. Hi, good evening, Michael. Being able to join you after all, that's lovely. Thank you so much. You turned your visitor away at the door and told your visitor, sorry, no entry tonight. We're watching Pop Astro Live. All bets are off. So the telescope is out with a clear sky ahead. I know. How could you get in a better mood for stargazing than watching Pop Astro Live, bringing to you top astro entertainment and information, especially about the beautiful gas giants, which are so resplendent in our autumnal skies at the moment. Okay, let's have a look at the comments. Liam, where have you been hiding? So good to see you, Liam from ISS Above. I think that's the correct name for it. Do I look like a nebula? I've got my nebula projector on. That actually creates a beautiful pattern on the ceiling. I'm giving my tricks away. I've actually got Hubble projecting onto my face right now. And this beautiful thing was in the skip. And it's like got real wood. It's got real wood and fake wisteria. And so we've been experimenting with a new setup here. The black backdrop has gone into storage for a short amount of time. Look, you can catch these. They really make your teeth glow up. Oh, the camera goes back to front on this thing. Hi, Samantha. Noswith there. Hi, Jason. Nice for you to join us. Very cushy background. Skip salvage, £7 from Home Bargain Stars. It's basically a free backdrop. Evening, Vicky from the Wirral. Thank you, Jed. The regulars. Greetings from Kathy and the Ragdolls. I was born in Bath at the Ragdolls were. It's always good to know where the cats came from. Tell us where your cats came from tonight. Bonjour, Monsieur Hall and I, my Tanganaut twin. Good evening, Vicky and everyone. My favourite, Bob, you're just so lovely. And Madeline Dunn, the lady with the pesquettes. You've had an 8-week course clashing with this now. Oh, Liam, that's so nice of you to come back. A big Michael to welcome Barrett. A big welcome to Michael Barrett as the SPA's new publicity officer. You heard it first here. Thank you, Michael. That is so good. And look, the SPA is always looking for volunteers to support and to help us with our outreach and to help with the magazine. It's such a wonderful organization to be involved with. Friends for life. And you really are changing people's lives. Let's face it, Astro is the best for mental health. Surely it's the best hobby of them all. Lovely background. I know it's very good, isn't it? Has anyone spotted Cosmo yet? Okay, now we're going to go across to David Graham. Oh, why have I left the magazine in my bedroom? Because I've been reading it. That's my excuse. Right. We're going to go across to David Graham now. He has got a fantastic set of sketches to show you about sketching the gas giants. Can't recommend sketching highly enough. Yes, let's go to David. 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, Vicky. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's doing okay tonight.
Oh, David, thank you so much for joining us. You are our Lunar Section Director. You've been involved with the SPA for a long time. What does that entail?
Well, it goes back a long time. It really does, back to the 1970s when it was still the Junior Astronomical Society.
Yeah.
I remember for a while I was director of its planetary section, taking over after Alan Young had retired. Alan's claim to fame was he was the first UK amateur to recover Halley's Comet at the apparition of 1986.
Go on.
So that's taken you back quite a few years. I've also been director of the Saturn section of the British Astronomical Association. And I've been looking at the planets for a very long time now, somewhere getting on between about 40 and 50 years, I think it is. And hopefully we'll be for a while longer yet.
You've spent a lot of time at the eyepiece.
Yes. Can you tell?
Oh, bloody hell. Hey, I'm sorry. You just made me say I've not blasphemed for a long time. That really got me. Good. The warm-up act is set for my song coming on later. That was an amazing impression and it really took me by surprise. Can you give us a bit more, please?
Good evening. Welcome to the Sky Night.
John Culshaw, you're fired. So, David, thank you. Lovely, lovely. Right. Okay. So give us a little rundown. If you're watching the rundown of this, this is the rerun of this. It's going to be completely out of date. However, if you're watching this in November, December, the gas giants are beautifully placed at the moment for observation. Is that right?
It certainly are, yes. You can't fail to see them if the cloud isn't in the way. If you go out and look more or less to the southeast, once it's starting to get dark, the first planet you will see is Jupiter. If you look a little bit further towards the west, you'll pick up on Saturn. So that's both Jupiter and Saturn that are presently well placed in the evening sky at dusk. And a little bit later on, once the sky's got reasonably dark, you can find Uranus. Yeah. If you know where to look. But it's not too difficult to find at the moment, actually. Yes. And I should also say that Neptune is up there too. So you can actually see Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Jupiter at this present time. That's a very good portion of the outer solar system, I might add.
That is a really beautiful thing. Let's see. Oh, okay. So Peter's been out in the park photographing Jupiter and Saturn, currently about 15 degrees apart, and both in Capricornus. Nice.
They're good.
Barry, thank you very much. Good evening from Bath. He joined Bath Astro 2 days ago. Pop Astro is on, and I'm mentioning the SPA mag. Wow, you are practically astronomy royalty, Barry. Have you been to Bath lately, David?
Have I been to Bath lately? Well, it's every Wednesday night for me.
Okay, so
it's rather a long time since I was last in Bath. I think it was about 200 years after Herschel discovered Uranus, so that would be about 1981. And I actually went and stood in the back garden of, I think it was 19 New King Street. It's on that very spot where William Herschel found his planets.
Great. I'm just wondering, David, I'm getting some audio coming through. Is it just feedback from the speakers, or is someone watching TV in your room?
Can you still hear it?
I'll keep gabbing and see if I can hear myself feeding back. You just might need to just drop your speakers a wee bit. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Let's talk about your imaging, and let me go over to our ferociously complex screen share system that this software has. Share screen. Now, we have had a dry run of this, so hopefully it's going to be lovely. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's better than nout.
Exactly. That's a good Yorkshire word, is nout.
Oh, well, I'm kind of Cheshire stroke Lancashire, really. So, yeah. Right. Let's have a look there. So, what have we got here?
People can see that. I've had all sorts of different telescopes in my time. Started off with a 3-inch refractor at the age of 16. Saved a whole year's paper round money to purchase that, and then went to a 4-inch. Then went to a 6-inch refractor, and then we've used all sorts of telescopes since then. The current main instrument out in the observatory is this one. This is a 9-inch Maksutov Cassegrain telescope. So it's quite a good telescope for planetary observing. It's got a long focal length, so you can get quite high magnifications for standard focal length eyepieces, which is an important thing. But the main thing to remember is probably the best telescope for observing the planets is the one you're going to use. It's pointless having some massive giant instrument, and it maybe takes you about an hour to put it together, and by the time you have, the sky is clouded over. So you might be better off with something smaller and more portable. The other thing you've got to think about is eyepieces. You need a good selection of eyepieces, different focal lengths again, so that give you different magnifications. Magnification is very much seeing dependent. So low powers work best when the seeing isn't very steady, and high powers when it is. Also, I would recommend that you have a good set of color filters, because they can make a huge difference to observing planets, especially with the gas giants. Quite a lot of the time, I use a blue filter for observing Jupiter, because you've predominantly got a lot of browns and reds, which darken seen through blue light. Now, if you're going to observe Jupiter and you're going to attempt to draw it, you need to start off with a blank, which is what we're looking at here. And the first thing you note about Jupiter through a telescope is that it's not round. It's kind of like flattened. And that is because it spins very rapidly in under 10 hours. And so if you're going to start to draw Jupiter, you're going to have to take account of this, and you've got to draw a flattened disk. So 2 ways you can do it. You can trace an outline, if you can find an outline to trace, or you can cheat. And what this is, it's a very cheap B&Q plumbing fitting purchased from a hardware store. And what I've done is I've drilled a hole through this thing and put a nut and bolt through. And then I've just tightened up the nut and compressed the size of the vertical axis until I had the same proportion of flattening as Jupiter's got. So all I do is turn that thing upside down and sketch round it, and you've got the perfect 15 to 14 ratio for observing Jupiter. Somebody criticized me.
I think that is it. I was going to say, in all my years of bothering astronomers, that is one of the most lovely, in-depth tips that just shows the pure passion and dedication. That is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, somebody criticized me once. They said you should be doing it with computer software and programs and printing them off and this sort of thing. And it reminded me of the story, whether it's myth or legend or true, I don't know, where NASA spent thousands of dollars inventing a pen that would write for astronauts, and the Russians gave their cosmonauts pencils. I do like the simple idea that works, and this one certainly does. So I would recommend that one if you want to try it. Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so let's go to the next image. Oh, you've colored it in now.
Well, we've started to. What we've got to do with Jupiter is you've got to give it some shading. The first thing I must say, though, is that when you start observing Jupiter, you don't start drawing it straight away. you've got to spend some time looking at it through the telescope and making the eye and the mind familiar with all the detail that's there. This is something that takes practice. And when you start to observe Jupiter to begin with, you probably might not see much other than one or two dark bands and some of the lighter zones. You'll certainly see the movements of the 4 bright Galilean satellites from one night to the next and over a period of hours. But to see detail on Jupiter in the belts and the zones, it needs practice. And so you've got to go out whenever the conditions are good, the seeing is good, and you've got to train your eye and you've got to train your brain to interpret the detail that's there. And then you can start to record it on paper. And I think it's very important that you do. What I do is I've got a collection of these things. These are A4 sized drawing pads. And everything goes into here. And you do your sketches into this, and you do your notes into that as well. It's very important that you make a record of what you see when you venture out to the eyepiece. So what we're looking at here is I've spent some time looking at Jupiter. I'm going to start drawing it. The first thing I do is I'm going to enter the main belts and the zones, and I'm going to try and put them in the correct proportion and scale of where I think they are on the disk. And it's probably best to work from the equator and work your way north and work your way south from there, and try and get it as accurately as you can. As I say, I must say that this really does take practice. So pencils are very bad in choice. Yes, we do work in the observatory though, but yes, you have to have a pencil sharpener out there as well, because I'm always breaking the things. But you start sketching in your main belts and detail like you can see. But the thing to remember with Jupiter is that it spins very rapidly on its axis. It spins in slightly less than 10 hours. So you can't afford to take too much time trying to bring the detail in, because if you do, some of it will be moved by the time you've got the rest of it. And so let's move on to the next one, see where we are. Oh yes, so you're starting to see now what you may call the finished sketch. You can use a fairly soft pencil, I would say a 2B pencil or thereabouts. And I've entered all the detail. I've smudged it in to make it look as if it does look like you're seeing it through a telescope. And you can use cotton wool buds to do that, or you can use proper smudging pencils that you can buy that will achieve the same thing. And you try to get a rather realistic finish. But the main thing to remember is that you've got to be as realistic as you can. You've got to be as accurate as you can, and try not to enter detail which the imagination thinks is there, but in practice isn't. I'm afraid that is all too easily a trap to fall into. I've made a note of what magnification was used, the time at which you made the drawing, how good the seeing was using Antoniadi's scale of 1 to 5. Now, 1 and 2 is perfect and good seeing. Most of the time it's not like that. Often it's for Jupiter, where we've been seeing it rather low down in the sky over recent years. It tends to be about 3 and 4. And rather blurry much of the time, but things are improving. Jupiter is slowly coming north in the sky once more, as is Saturn, and over the coming few years we'll see them higher in the sky. The seeing should be better, and importantly they should be above the horizon for longer. So that typically is what an observation of Jupiter would look like, and that one was made on Saturday night, photographed in stages. Now let's have a look at some over this current year and see what we can come up with and what I can describe to you. Where are we here? Oh, this was a drawing that was made on the 6th of September of this year. Seeing was about 3, so that's about the average kind of seeing that you would get. That's enough to sort of like show a reasonable amount of detail. What you're seeing here is the great red spot, which I believe looked like a pale orange color at the eyepiece. That is at the preceding limb. That's the left-hand limb, and that is where detail is moving off the disc to be replaced by detail coming in on the right-hand side, which is the following limb. And you've got to remember that when you look at Jupiter through an inverting astronomical telescope in the northern hemisphere, you are seeing it with south at the top. So this can be confusing, as most people that image the planets these days put them at north at the top to agree with how NASA see these things, which is fine. But as me being rather antiquated and being very loath to get into newer habits, I still tend to put south at the top, where certainly planets are concerned. Now, the other thing that you see here is to the right of the red spot, there is like a dark segment of south temperate belt. And that is called Clyde's spot, after an amateur astronomer that drew note to it. And this could be a development of what may become a revival of the south temperate belt. We'll wait and see on that one. The broad belt further to the north is the north equatorial belt. This year that has been very, very muted. There hasn't been the usual degree of detail to see in there, but there has been these little dark spots that have been moving along the northern edge, which you can see. So let's have another one, please, Vicky. Right, now then, this one again, I think, is from the 7th of September. And it shows a reasonable degree of structure that was taking place in the South Tropical Zone and what we call the South Temperate Domain. And the other thing I want to draw attention to is the 4 bright moons. Now, this apparition, the Earth hasn't been far from being edge on to the actual plane of their orbits around Jupiter, which means quite often you've been able to see the moons when they've been quite close to each other or looking to be quite close to each other through the telescope. And at that time, you can make some interesting comparisons. And I think what we were looking at here was a conjunction of Callisto and possibly Ganymede, I think, yes. The top one would be Ganymede and the lower one would be Callisto. And what you actually see is that they look physically different sizes and slightly different colors. And the reason for that is because they are physically different in diameter. Now, at a very good apparition, Ganymede can be almost up to about 2 arc seconds in apparent diameter. And that's more than enough for most amateur telescopes to show as a disk. And some images actually do see or do record detail on those satellites themselves. So that is one observation that you can make. You can also follow them as they pass behind the planet, which is called an occultation. They will go into shadow, which is called an eclipse. And you can also see them transit across the face of Jupiter. Quite spectacular is one of the, when a satellite shadow moves across the disk, and you can see it as a little dark spot. So there's loads to see. You could probably just look at Jupiter and never really bother with anything else when it's in the sky. Let's have another one, please.
Oh, I've just noticed we've had a comment here from, I'm just scrolling down, somebody who's not seen you for ages. Where has he gone to? David Meldrake.
Oh, yes. David comes from my part of the world. He comes from Teesside. And he was a very, very keen young amateur astronomer that was a member of the Cleveland and Darlington Astronomical Society. Then he did very well at school. He went into university. And I believe he got a degree in astronomy.
Nice.
And later on became a doctor. And he went to Australia. And I think he worked for a while at Mount Stromlo Observatory, if I remember correctly. We're still in touch on Facebook. He's still very much an amateur astronomer as well. But yes, David was a great guy. He still is, of course.
My kind of guy. They're the kind of credentials I would look for on a dating website. Just
well, there you are.
Just putting that out there.
Here's an observation from the 8th of August. And what you're looking at here is the red spot. And now that's quite obvious. So one of the things that you can do when you observe Jupiter is you can make what are called transit estimates. And what you do here is you have to estimate the time at which a feature is in the center of the disk. And then you make a note of that time. And then what you've got to do, you've got to convert it into longitude. This publication is the Handbook of the British Astronomical Association. And there's tables in here where you can convert your estimated transit time into what's called System 1 or System 2 longitude. The other way of doing it is to download a freeware package called Windows Dupos off the internet, and that will do it for you as well. I recommend that one because it's very, very good in what it does. So what you find is that we assume that in the equatorial zone, features on Jupiter rotate in about 9 hours and 50 minutes. And in the areas of the disk outside that, you get 9 hours and 55 minutes. And what I've done here is I've made estimates for the beginning, the preceding end, the center, and the following end of the Great Red Spot, and then converted them into longitudes. And what you find is that the red spot doesn't stay in the same place all the time. I think in about the 40 years I have been observing Jupiter, it's probably been around the planet several times. So it varies in its longitude from one apparition to the next. And it's a fascinating exercise to do, because what you can do is you can get transits of features over the course of the apparition. You can plot them on graph paper. You can chart and work out the drift in longitude per 30 days. And you can actually derive your own rotation periods for the different features if that's what you want to do. Not all people do, but as I say, it is an interesting exercise. Next slide, please.
There you go.
Okay, when was this one? Oh, this is 31st of August. As I've said, the North Equatorial Belt, which is the broad band below centre there, has been rather muted this year. In previous apparitions, there have been large projections that like stick out into the equatorial zone. And these magnificent little beasties are very good for making transit estimates on. But it's almost as if there's some sort of high overlying haze that has covered them up this apparition. But we'll see, because Jupiter changes from one apparition to the next, and it's very difficult for me to make predictions that look too far forward. I wouldn't really try, to be quite honest with you. So shall we proceed upwards and onwards? So there is Jupiter, 31st of August. So this one is October the 8th. And again, we've got some transit estimates. And you could probably see quite a difference in the appearance of Jupiter over the period of about an hour or so. What I've done here is the top finished sketch is a finished sketch that was made, let me see, at about 19 hours, 50 minutes UT. Over the course of the next hour or so, more details started coming in from the following side. And I've made transit estimates of that and then done just a little strip sketch to show you what that detail would look like. So that's in the lower left image there, but that's not a full finished drawing. And a few notes again to say what we have actually been looking at.
Great.
And the next one, please.
We're at the end of that batch, so let's move on to the next email.
Well, I think we're going to Saturn now then. We're traveling
Here
out
we
further.
go. Everybody's favorite planet with a ring.
King of the Rings, we used to call it.
Oh, I've never heard that. That's a good one.
You're not? That's a bit
King
of old
the Rings, King Ring, very good.
Old JAS terminology, I think. That's where that might have come from. So Saturn is that one object that everybody has got to see, because once you've seen it, you will never forget it. It jumps out of the eyepiece and it looks something the likes of which you think, blimey, I've seen pictures of that, and it actually exists in nature. And everybody, I think, will remember their first ever view or look at Saturn through the telescope.
Yeah, why does it make such an impression? Why does it sear itself on your brain? I remember vividly the star party in Liverpool somewhere that I was at, and I want a pair of binoculars. Great.
Well, the first time I remember, I think, was back in about this month in 1976. And it was a Friday night.
Oh God, you've got better memory than I have.
I could almost remember which horror film I'd been watching. It was the one with the giant ants terrorizing America, I think. And we finished about 12:30, and I looked out, and the sky was clear. And so I put the 3-inch refracting telescope together, which I had then, and looked at this star-like point against the stars of Cancer, and there was this magnificent spectacle, Saturn with its ring. So it made such an impression on me. I could tell you all about that particular night. I think I also looked at the Orion Nebula at the same time as well, M42. So that was two of the most spectacular objects in the sky, all on the same night for the first time. But yes, Saturn is rather low down at the moment, but it is slowly coming north again. And typically through a modest amateur telescope, this is the sort of view that you might have of it. That's on July the 17th, yes. I think that was with my 4 3/4 inch refractor. Yeah, it is. So I'll set up on the patio to make that observation. And I've made some colour notes there as well about the cream-coloured ball south of the ring. I've said the NE, being the North Equatorial Belt, was the most prominent belt present, the vague North Temperate Belt, and then some notes about the ring as well. Let's have the next one,
so much there. So much beautiful information.
So we're now on to a little bit of an early one there. I believe that is going to be the 18th of July. Yeah, this is from the observatory this time through the Maksutov telescope. And what you're seeing there is, if you follow the ring around to about the 3 o'clock position on the ball of the planet, you'll see the shadow of the globe appearing as a dark line against the ring. Now that appears on the preceding side prior to opposition, then it moves over onto the following side after apparition. So that is something that you can see through a fairly small telescope. I think most telescopes will show you the Cassini division, which separates the A ring from the B ring. You may be able to see some intensity variation within the B ring, but really to see the crepe ring, which is the innermost ring that you see here, or ring C, probably requires a larger telescope. I would estimate in the size range of 6 inches or so to be able to reasonably see that.
Oh my gosh. I don't know whether you can hear the rain here. It's like almost deafening. It's that loud. I'll put my microphone on mute.
Oh, I could hear that, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, Anglesey rain, eh?
Oof. Right, well, let's rain on Saturn then. I imagine it may well do. I have to go down through the atmosphere of it to find out. So we're on now to the 1st of August. Now, Saturn was at opposition around about 1st to the 2nd of August. And what you have then is what's called the opposition surge. The ring becomes noticeably brighter. And this is down to the fact that the ring, of course, isn't solid, but is made up of many, many, many small, tiny moons. And the way in which they reflect the light on at opposition, when the light is shining directly down onto them, makes quite a marked difference. And you can actually see that from the Earth. And typically the ring will be bright for a few days either side of the opposition date, when the Earth is closest and the objects are in a line with the sun. And then it will slowly start to fade down again. So there's an observation. Can we go on to the next batch, please? Oh, I think we're going into glorious Technicolor now, aren't we? Yes. So talk about some of the others.
Is it? We've gone Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Technicolor.
Technicolor. Yeah, these are color pastel drawings. The ones that you've looked at up to now were done on just with a 2B pencil. What we've done now, I've brought out the pastel set and started doing them on a black background to make them look a little bit more attractive. Now, this is an observation of Jupiter made back in 1991, January the 22nd. And what you had then was a very yellow, orangey looking equatorial zone. And what you find on Jupiter is that the weather on the planet tends to come around in cycles. And I think these equatorial zone episodes, I've heard that somebody reckons that they happen about 7 years apart. I do know back in 2018 that the equatorial zone was very, very coloured then. And the northern part of it is so now. But similar in some respects in 91 as to what it is now, in that the South Equatorial Belt was rather narrow and not the broad belt that it can be. And that will come on nicely to our next slide, I think.
Oh, there it is. That's the moment we've all been waiting for, the great red spot.
The great red spot. Well,
it's here,
I think
everybody. It's here.
Here it is. Yeah. So this was 1993, April the 14th. And the red spot at that time was larger than it is now, because it's been shrinking in recent years. And it was very red in color, especially through a largish aperture telescope, which this one was. But what was quite interesting was, if you look in the South Equatorial Belt, there's two dark spots. And what this signaled was what was called a revival of the South Equatorial Belt. The belt had been missing for 1 or 2 years, and it came back, and it comes back in a spectacular fashion with like an outbreak of bright and dark spots, and these rapidly spread all the way around the planet until you've got the South Equatorial Belt again in all of its glory. And at the moment, the SEB does look quite narrow. Whether we'll have a revival in a year or two's time, well, we shall just have to wait and see. Oh, David's saying good morning from Canberra. Yes, it's probably not raining.
Is it today or yesterday or tomorrow in Canberra?
That's a good question.
It's tomorrow.
So
yeah, it's tomorrow.
Here is an observation of Saturn made, I believe, in 1991. And like with Jupiter, you've got this family of satellites, which can look very attractive when you see them through the eyepiece. Now, the brightest one is Titan, but then you've got some of the slightly fainter moons like Dione and Tethys and Rhea, which you are seeing here, of course. Let's have a look what's going to come up next. Yes, that's that one. This, I believe, is an observation from 1998. And it was made with a 14-inch Schmidt Cassegrain telescope. And quite often in the 1990s, I used to go over to America and spend some time with a friend of mine there called Tom Dobbins, who made telescopes and possessed telescopes and was a very keen observer of the moon and the planets. And he could be always relied upon to have lots of clear nights with good seeing, which he normally had over there about this time of year, and a first-class telescope to observe with. And so you're looking at Saturn here, and this, as I say, would be October the 23rd, 1998. And you see the South Equatorial Belt there is the big belt that is visible. You've got other faint bands which are further south and above that towards the darker South Pole. And you see a reasonable degree of detail like they're actually in the rings itself. So let's keep marching on because time is always a priority. You think? So this particular night was in 1997. Again, this was from Ohio. And the telescope that Tom had at the time, yes, Saturn does have seasons, is that it was a 10-inch Newtonian telescope of about f9 focal ratio with a very tiny secondary mirror on a single vane spider. And it was optimized for making high-resolution lunar and planetary observations. And this particular night, I do remember that the seeing was near perfect. It was about 1 on an ODR scale. None of the stars were twinkling at all. And we were looking at Saturn with a power of 600 on this telescope. And if I remember rightly, I think this was the same night that the Cassini mission blasted off into orbit towards Saturn from Cape Canaveral down in Florida. So that was a memorable night. Now, if you look out towards the outer edge of the A ring, you can see a faint division, and that is called Enkei's division, after a German observer who saw or thought he saw a division there in about 1837. But that really should be called Keeler's Gap, because that particular gap was discovered by James Keeler from the Lick Observatory in about 1897, 1898. and not by Enkei, but because the IAU Nomenclature Committee know best, they call it Enkei's division. Well, that's a matter for debate as well. So where are we? Let's have a look at another one. Yes, this again is from 1998 in the US, and we're looking at Saturn. This one was from the Yerkes Observatory, which was up in Wisconsin, yeah, Green Bay. And we had some time on a 24-inch Cassegrain telescope to look at the planets. Wow. Unfortunately, they didn't have the 40-inch refractor up and running that particular night, otherwise it could have been that. But the 24-inch did show some nice views as well. So this is a view of Saturn from that particular trip. So that's Jupiter and Saturn. They are the two gas bags. We must move on, and we must talk about Uranus and Neptune. Now, Uranus is visible in the evening sky, along with Neptune at the moment, but both are very small. And if I just consult some little notes that I've made here, to actually make any of these planets the same size, apparent size as the moon appears to the naked eye or the unaided eye in the sky, then what you can say that we would have to magnify Uranus 400 times to make it the same size as the moon with the unaided eye. And with Neptune, you would have to magnify 720 times for the same effect. So Uranus looks a tiny greenish disk with a bit of a fuzzy edge because it's probably not fully resolved. Neptune always looks a little bit more of a greenish grey colour to me. To see features on Jupiter is very, very difficult. Sorry, I mean on Uranus is very, very challenging. Doesn't mean to say that it can't be done. And with Neptune, it's much harder still. Some amateurs that have got large telescopes and know how to do the CCD imaging get details on them regularly enough, and you can determine weather and also rotation periods from some of the features that you can see. But by all means, go out and look. That is what you must do. Uranus, you can get star charts off the web for that. You can see it with binoculars. It's quite obvious in most telescopes as looking as a small greenish disk. Neptune, a bit more challenging. It's about 8th magnitude, but it does show a disk of about 2.5 arc seconds across or so. And I think that must about come to the end of that, I would think. Yeah.
I would say so. David, thank you so much. That's amazing main line of information there.
I hope we didn't overrun too much. That was always my bad habit.
That is quite all right. I'm just too polite to go. But it's great. The information was amazing. And if you haven't tried sketching, please try it. Don't worry about your artistic talents. They improve and they improve. Keep sticking at the sketching. It is a marvelous way to increase your observational skills, and it's creative as well, and it's mindful and nice. So there we go. You got lots of great comments here, David, and thank you so much. Okay, see you later. Bye. Yeah, and thanks for supporting the show. You're one of our regulars. It's great. Goodbye. Mwah. There we go. That was good. Brilliant. Yeah, amazing sketches. Amazing sketches. Right, where are we on the itinerary? Scroll down. Okay. Okay, we've got Simon Holbeche coming on. Now we have got, right, that was a sedate half of the show. It's about not to be so sedate. So I would recommend maybe you hold on to the edges of your chair, put on your seatbelt. If indeed you have a domestic seatbelt in your house, it's about to go a little bit off the wall. You have been warned. It's not for the faint-hearted. How do we do this? Here's Simon. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Simon.
Hello, Vicky.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm doing very, very well. And I've even managed to trip into the museum today to see how it's doing.
So tell us where you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Simon Holbeche, and I help to look after the Bath Astronomers, which is a group of astronomers in the city of Bath. It was originally created back in the 1976, I think, by two chaps, Bob Newman and Dave Ollis. And just like all societies, they're run by sort of very keen people, but sometimes that they move away and things like that. And so Bath Astronomers had an up-down life, but we actually kind of reconstituted Bath Astronomers in 2019. So it's kind of like the ISS: get some food and inject some water into those little plastic bags, and bang, you've got Bath Astronomers back again. So we had a bit of a gap, but so we started off with we started with the first member in November 2019. We're now 61 members strong. So,
well done for coming back from the dead. I've got something for you. Are you ready for it? I'm going to play it twice. I occasionally make music. I've not written a piece of music for ages, and this piece of music originally started out as a wedding song, a piece of romantic music, and I realized it was just so frantic that there's no way could it possibly be anything but anywhere near approaching romantic. So I thought, right, what's coming up on the show this week? And here is the song. Okay. It's a tongue-in-cheek song. It's a tongue-in-cheek song. It definitely does not represent the views of the SPA. Cosmo made me do it. There he is hanging in the wisteria. This is meant to be a bit of fun. Please don't anybody write in and complain. It's just a bit of fun about our favorite methane green planet. So let's have a look. Are you ready for it? It's a song about Uranus, the planet that I get its name wrong and embarrass myself. And that's basically my little protest against me getting its name wrong. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
It's a green planet with a queasy tilt that's seventh from the sun. It's got a stupid name that's hard to say that sounds a bit like bum. Please can we call him Georgie Porgy like Herschel's first idea? But for now we'll stick with Uranus, and this planet is quite queer. It's the coldest in the solar system, but not further from the sun. It's got some rings and a backwards moon, and it rolls round on its bum. Please don't call me Uranus, it's the worst name of them all. I'd rather be George, I'd rather be George, I'd rather be George, 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 George. George, George.
Well, I'm not sure you're going to get to number one with that, but you never know. Streaming, lots of things get to the top of the charts with streaming, so fingers crossed, maybe.
It's meant to be a bit of fun, and I'm sure it's past the watershed now. No, it's not. It's 10 minutes before the watershed, and I said bum.
I think you're allowed bum.
Oh, that's all right then. That's fine. Yeah, it's just a bit of fun. Would you like to explain to us why that planet was called George originally?
Well, it was discovered by William Herschel on the 13th of March, 1781. Whilst he was at 90 New King Street in Bath. That's the location of the Herschel Museum of Astronomy. And he actually thought it was a comet to start off with. So he was watching it for a few days, and by the time that Caroline came back from the work that she was doing, they managed to get some good readings for it. And they then published those out effectively to the science community. And it was then that people started to working out what it was. And a chap called, I think it was Anders Lexell, worked out that it has a round orbit, or a very circular orbit. So it's not a comet, William. So you're not naming a comet. It's a planet. And so then William got lots of letters to say, what are you going to call it? What are you going to call it? What are you going to call it? And by this time, he got a letter from the king, George III, to say, I like you. You can be my king's astronomer. Not the astronomer royal. That job was already taken. But you can be my king's astronomer, and I'll give you some cash. And so what are you going to do? People are badgering you to give it a name, and there's a bloke giving you loads of cash. So you're going to name it after him. So it got called Georgium Sidus, George's star, or George's planet. and it had that name for a few years in terms of the scientific literature, although a number of people, when they were referring to it, started calling it the Herschel instead, because they didn't like George, especially the French. They didn't really like George. But the name George actually stuck for 70 years. There was a Julie, there was an almanac, I think a naval almanac, that kept the name until 1850. So Georgium Sidus actually did survive for 70 years, but really it wasn't to, I think it was in the year after someone suggested, wouldn't it be a good idea? I know all the other planets are named after Roman gods, but why not? Let's name it after a Greek god. And so it was given Uranus or Uranus as its title. So that's where it got it from. It's the father of Saturn in the mythology. So that's where the name came from. But there were other names in the mix. Neptune was even suggested as a possible name. But Uranus is the one that stuck, and that's why we've got it today. But hey, if you were picking up that almanac in 1850, you would have still seen Planet George mentioned.
Oh, excellent. Right. It would have just been so much fun. Can we get these things changed back again?
Well, what would you call Neptune?
Oh, Zippy George Bungle.
Yeah, let's just keep going.
Bungle.
Yeah.
Planet Bungle.
Wait.
So tell us about your Alexander Herschel involvement then, because he built the telescopes, right?
Yeah, so everyone knows, or hopefully everyone knows, about William Herschel's contribution to science and astronomy, and the discovery of Uranus in 1781, and the fact that he worked very closely with his sister, Caroline, and she became a very famous astronomer in her own right, discovering lots of comets, and also correcting the work of Flamsteed. The books that he'd written contained mistakes, and it was really annoying, but no one actually went and rewrote his book. So Caroline took it upon herself to start recataloguing things. And even today, what we refer to, lots of the stuff in the night sky, is NGC numbers, and it was William and Caroline's work that restarted that. But in the background, silently, there was this chap, another brother, and the brother was called Alexander, and he came to Bath in 1772. And he was a musician, but he was also very good with his hands.
He would have loved that song. He would have loved that song.
So in 1776, when Herschel sort of got interested in astronomy, he needed someone to fettle bits and pieces. So it was Alexander who was making stuff.
It's so odd that you should mention the word fettle, synchronicity there. My housemate Johnny and me tonight just learned the meaning of the word fettle, which means to hone something when you engineer something, and we didn't know.
Yeah, and they must have had the best fun, because Caroline writes that Alexander was setting up lathes and machinery in different rooms in the house. So she's trying to run a household, and all the lads are just getting all these machines and actually building telescopes in individual rooms, and it must have been a nightmare for her. So she should have got a sainthood just for that.
Do you know, actually, I've got a very large telescope down here just behind me, and it's just caused pandemonium in the house. We really need to get the legs on that thing and get it up, because it's actually a death trap down there. It's just like an invisible black cylinder. So yeah, I feel for you, Caroline. You can't dust or anything around it.
Well, every Astro Society should have the mission to find those poor, lonely telescopes that are behind sofas, in cupboards, unused, up in the attic, and get them out and liberate them, dust them off, and get them looking at the sky.
If all the telescopes stood up and walked, it would be like the Day of Reckoning.
Well, I've got 7 or 8 in this house, so I think I'd be in a lot of trouble if they started walking. Yeah.
What's the where the mop started walking? Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Astronomer's Apprentice. Just be careful! Don't weave spells near those telescopes, because they will get up and dance. So let's now talk about Bath Astro, because you're our Society of the Week. So thank you for that. Tell us about the society and where you meet and what happens.
Oh, it's a stuck record. We meet at the Herschel Museum of Astronomy once a month. and the society in 2019 was reformed with 3 values. Number 1, getting people together who liked astronomy to talk about astronomy. Number 2 was to actually give them opportunities to get better at what their hobby, as it were. So getting speakers in that could tell them about astrophotography, all that kind of stuff, but also organizing sessions where someone would run it who knew stuff, and sort of like a workshop style. And then the final mission is to get out and share the night sky with everyone else. So that's going out to the Cubs, the Scouts, to schools, and running public stargazing as well. So those are the 3 things we try to sort of cobble together. And over the last 2 years, despite COVID, we've been doing quite well.
So you have been at the Marlborough Dark Skies Festival.
I have indeed, yes. And I went to Exmoor Dark Skies Festival before that as well. And that's part of that third sort of activity, to sort of like go and share stuff. And it's a good excuse because I get to wear sort of fancy dress space suits and things like that. So and play with Lego. So I can't think of anything better than dressing up as a spaceman and playing with Lego, and people saying, "Oh, you're doing really well at that."
Tell us about what Marlborough was like. Actually, there were the SPA had a stand there, and I forgot to put the pictures on. We've got pictures of SPA members doing outreach there. So just give us a feel for what it was. You said it was very successful, and they hit it. They hit all the points.
Yeah. So it's a town. So Marlborough's a town between Swindon and Salisbury, just south of the M4. So it's not the hugest of place. It's really nice and quaint. It's the kind of place where you park in the middle of the high street and all the shops are there and everyone says hello to each other. So that's good. And so what the town council decided to do was, wait a second, we're in between these 2 very bright sort of light polluted areas and we're not. So let's take advantage of that. And so it started off its dark sky. It wanted to run it in last year, but COVID didn't allow. So what they had this year is they had some real big sort of headliners. They had Luke Jerram's Museum of the Moon, and that was over in one building, so people could go around and look at that. And they had some people helping underneath, talking about the moon and all of that. They had Chris Lintott as a sort of like the guest speaker to draw in the crowds. And so he had a big talk. But around those core things, we had a series of workshops for the kids. And lots of talks for the adults as well as the kids, sort of to get that astro knowledge up. And so all the various locations from church halls, town halls, the school buildings were used, and each had an astro piece going on. And it was really cool. And right in the middle in the town hall, there was an exhibition centre, and that's where SPA was set up with space detectives, with various astro societies, companies that do good lighting. And sort of it was just great to, I think one of the best things was I hadn't seen a lot of these faces for 18 months due to COVID in face to face. I've seen them online, but actually getting to see Bob Misen again, and we all love Bob Misen and all the work he does for the Commission for Dark Skies, and have a good chat. And then when the sun went down, we all went out and went stargazing and took the public stargazing. So that was absolutely
it's been so long since I've done anything like that. I should have gone to that event, really. It was a bit far away for me to travel, though. But wow. Oh, we need something like that on Anglesey or in North Wales. That would be so good.
But it only takes one person with a lot of energy. In this case, in Marlborough, it's a lady called Claire Harris. So well done, Claire. And I hope you're going to be running it again. I think chats afterwards suggested she would. And it's seeing the kids' faces when they're building stuff like this. They're building their own little sort of Percy rover.
I want one.
Like or they were driving sort of robot rovers around and collecting stuff from a fake Mars mission. That's kind of cool. But it's the Harry Met Sally moment when you someone looks through a telescope for the first time to see Saturn, and you wonder, can you see it yet? Can you see it yet? And they're going, I'm not sure, not sure, not sure. And they go, it's amazing. And it's that moment that it's not only when you remember when you first saw Saturn, it's actually seeing other people seeing Saturn for the first time. That's great.
That's so lovely, actually, because our little Wednesday night astronomy group, our lovely member Dolly, we got Saturn in the eyepiece, and she'd been saying for ages, I want to see Saturn. And we went, go and look in the telescope eyepiece. And she looked and, is it really? Is it really? Dolly, we love you, by the way. I hope you're watching. And the rest of the Astro Norley crew from Mid-Cheshire Astro. Also, got a bone to pick with you, Simon.
What have I done?
Why are you dirty great liars on your logo?
The Royal Astronomical Society formed in 1820, and we on our logo say we were established in 1781. That's a big fat lie. We were
It's a
formed
lie.
in 1976. But our first astronomer, our famous astronomer in Bath, that's William Herschel, and he did do his discovery, and he put Bath's astronomy on the map in 1781. So we're claiming him as our first member.
Right. Well done. Thank you so much for promoting the society. Now, you've been a member of the SPA for a long time. What does the SPA bring to your life?
I suppose it's supposed to be a compliment, but it simplifies things. It makes astronomy really accessible. If I pick up
that's great. It simplifies astronomy.
If I pick up a BAA manual or BAA sort of quarterly, it's like really heavy to get into, and I just can't get through it. And some of the magazines, they're really talking about technical whatever. And when I open up the SPA stuff, I'm just going, I can get straight into this article, understand it. And my son, who's 13, he actually started reading it when he was 9. He can actually pick it up and run with it straight away. So it's actually it's got the level just right. In terms of making it really easy to pick up the material, sort of get involved and feel comfortable with astronomy. Because the worst thing about astronomy is sometimes you go to a lecture and everyone's talking about highfalutin, very complicated things, and you're turned off. But the SPA's got the level right just to turn people onto astronomy and keep them engaged. So that's really good.
That's a really lovely way of putting it. Simplifying astronomy and making it fun. Speaking of making it fun now, what was the name Paul Sutherland suggested that I call it? University Challenge. You are going to get 5 questions now about Uranus. And if you get all 5 right, you win the leftover SPA mugs with Uranus on them. I couldn't think of a better bottom prize. I really want one of those mugs. I can have a new mug, please. That would be so funny. Okay, so it's going to be a bit like what's the blankety blank checkbook and pen or something, like a real sought after kind of, what have you got there?
I'll send you one of ours.
Oh, I would love that. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, here we go. Oh, very nice. Okay. To the nearest hour, Simon, how long is a sidereal day on Uranus?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's how long it takes for it to rotate, basically.
Yeah. I don't know. 40 hours. Let's guess.
Really wanted you to get that mug. It's 17 hours, I'm afraid. You got it wrong. Oh, I've made these questions quite hard because I thought you'd be the know-it-all on Uranus. How many distinct rings are presently known?
Let's go for 3.
13.
I got one number right.
Yeah, this is shambolic. Oh, you're never going to get this one then. The largest moons in order of size order. If you get them all wrong, you can win a mug as well.
Oh, the booby prize. Okay, well, I'm incentivized now.
It's bottom prize. Okay, it's Miranda, Ariel, Umbriel, Oberon, and Titania. Of course.
Yep.
What magnitude is your? See, I get it wrong. Uranus.
5.6, 5.7, I would have thought.
Well, it's cut and pasted off Wikipedia here. It's 5.3, my love. So you got that wrong as well.
But it does change.
Doesn't it?
Yep. And it depends which magnitude you're talking about. We could call a steward's inquiry on that last one, but I need to get that mug, don't I? So I got it wrong.
Yeah, like say 10. Oh, here we go. Crater or potato? Is it a crater on Miranda or is it a potato? Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
It's Prospero.
I would have gone for crater.
You just said the wrong answer to lose. You've lost the mug now. If you said potato,
you didn't say it was double or quit. No, this is not fair.
This is not fair. Prospero is a crater.
I said crater.
Yeah, but you got it right. So that means you didn't.
Oh, I see. I got it right. Oh gosh. Okay. Now, yeah, okay.
Okay. Prospero is the magician named after Shakespeare's characters. So there you go. Very good. I'll tell you what we'll do just before we go. We're going to play the song again. Now, I made a mistake in this song. I actually said it's got a backwards moon, and it was just as I was editing it, just uploading it, I realized it's Neptune has got the backwards moon. It's Uranus that's got the patchwork moon, Miranda, which is one of the smallest little round bodies in the solar system. So I apologize about that. I took my eye off the ball, but I took my eye off the moon. But Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the show, and give our love to everybody at Bath Astronomers. And here is that beautiful, charming number about George again. Let me get rid of that banner. Where's it gone? Here it comes. It's a green planet with a queasy tilt that's 7 from the sun. It's got a stupid name that's hard to say that sounds a bit like bum. Please can we call him Georgie Porgy like Herschel's first idea? But for now we'll stick with Uranus, and this planet is quite queer. It's the coldest in the solar system, but not further from the sun. It's got some rings and a backwards moon, and it rolls round on its bum. Please don't call me Uranus, it's the worst name of them all. I'd rather be George, I'd rather be George, I'd rather be George, 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 George. George, George. It gets stuck in your ear, that one does, Simon.
Oh, luckily I've got a mute button on the back of my speakers. That's fine. Yeah,
that's fine. It has been a delight. 13 unlucky for some. Oh, thank you. Jed Max says, thank you, Simon. Excellent talk. Thank you, Simon. Great presentation. Thanks, Simon. Bob says it sounds like a really lively society. It does.
We try.
In that beautiful meeting place as well. Lovely. So thank you so much. Okay, Simon, maybe we'll meet soon. Maybe we've probably even met.
Not face to face, but you were recording something. I think you were running around with a video sometime, and I saw you there, and I'm trying to remember where it was. But
was it at Cambridge?
I'm not absolutely sure. I can't recall. So, we shall meet soon, no doubt, because places are opening up, and with care you can manage it. Just got to not go completely crazy and open everything and sort of spread this COVID virus even further. So we are slowly doing things. Planetariums are sort of like gently opening up. We've got people taking out their shows and things like that. We've got people going back into schools, or some schools. So little by little, we can get that message back out there. So I'm looking forward to that. And we've already started. I've got 2 schools to go to next week.
Ooh, children. Okay, I'll see you later, Simon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you. Just make my head swell. Great tune. Oh, thank you, Liam. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I need to do one for ISS. Maybe that'll be my next song. I promise. I promise. I'm making a musical. Very enjoyable night. Thank you, Bob. That's so sweet. Guess what? Because we were overrunning slightly, I forgot to do something. Here it comes. He's been flying around the solar system, or maybe a bit further. But to the casual observer, he's a mithering, pestering sloth. Where have you been to this week, Cosmo? Cosmo, where have you been? 3 clues. Only answer after the clues. Cosmo over and out. You made me think. Cosmo's made me not write down the answer. I'm giving you 3 clues with no answer. You little tyke, Cosmo. He's such a little love, isn't he? This is Cosmo. He is a... Johnny said to me, be careful with that tree. There's concrete in the bottom of it, and it's very delicate. Look what... There's a telescope tube down there. Oh, come on. Cosmo, you're demolishing the room. You've got your clues wrong. Cheeky monkey is a cheeky monkey. Cheeky monkey is a cheeky sloth. Right. Oh, there's a lot of dust on that tree. I can tell there's dust in the air. Okay, popular astronomers. This is Cosmo. He lives on the telescope and he causes pandemonium whenever he appears in the room. And what I'm going to do now, if you're not familiar with the format, I'm going to read you out 3 clues, but it's not really a fastest finger first because I'd like you to just have a dwell on the points. And it gives me time to research the answer that I've carelessly not written down. It's your fault. Yes, it is. It's not my fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. Okay. This place where Cosmo has been this week, it's named after the mythical king of the fairies who appears as a character in A Midsummer Night's Dream. That's your first clue. It's named after the mythical king of the fairies who appeared as a character in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Number 2, Cosmo. You're a very well-read little sloth. I didn't even know you could read. It was discovered by William Herschel in 1787. And finally, it's the outermost major moon of Uranus. I have to Google that now. Don't you Google? Only I'm allowed to Google. It's no good if you Google. So yeah. Oh, what's happened, Cosmo? My mouse is stuck. It's your fault. Don't Google it. Only I'm allowed to Google. Oh, let's have a look. Let's get the answers. Will I have a CD out for Christmas? I have written Christmas songs. I'm just waiting to find if anyone knows a pop star, by the way, seriously, I might as well put it out there. I write pop songs. I don't perform them myself, mainly because I wear cardigans and I've got odd hair. But it would be great if anybody knows anybody in the music industry, a pop star who would like a song for them. I've got all sorts of songs, Christmas songs, pop songs, fun songs, songs about Uranus. You've all got the answer right. I thought this one was going to be really tough. But you've all got it right. Let's have a look. Look at them all. This is the most correct answers I've ever seen. And Cosmo is very impressed with you all. Oberon, underground, wombling free. You've all got it right. Look, Prospero, John Morrell, go to the bottom of the class. Because Shakespeare, we only did, what was it we did at school? Macbeth. I just didn't understand it. I just didn't dig Shakespeare. I know he's amazing, but wow, our English teacher made it laborious and amazingly convoluted. The Shakespeare clue was what? Do you all read Shakespeare or something in between reading your edition of Popular Astronomy magazine? Well done. It's Oberon. It's a moon. It's around Uranus. So there we go. Right, popular astronomers. Please share the show. It's been wonderful to have you along. The air is thick with dust from the fallen wisteria hysteria. And it's been lovely to have you on, David Graham, with his fantastic sketchings of the gas giants. He's our lunar director, and Simon Holbeche of Bath Astronomers, and also Simon saying about how much the SPA helps to simplify astronomy. And basically, we make it a joy to stargaze and to planet gaze and to draw and to socialize and to knock Halloween skulls off the side. Please share the video. And if there any other business, let's have a look. Any other business? Oh, Liam. Ta for now. What's the Q stand for? CT for now. Don't know that. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Ian. Thank you. Do you think our water's back on? I'll met by moonlight, proud Titania. Is it Titania? I guess you'd say it. Oberon in A Midsummer Night's. Yeah, okay. We're abbreviating Shakespeare. That's how learned we are today. Thank you, David. Oh, thank you. Getting dust in my eyes. Oh, look, everybody. Oh, yeah. How about a signature song for the SPA? We simplify astronomy. Maybe we could crowdsource the lyrics of a song for the SPA. Next week, what we're going to do is we're all going to think about why we love the SPA so much. And then you can drop me a few sentences down and I guarantee I'll weave them into the song. I do take requests, by the way. So yeah, the SPA theme song definitely needs to happen. I do take requests. No subject too bizarre. Oh, thanks everybody. It's lovely to get those comments because I'm really isolated here out on Anglesey. Literally, my bedroom, my head in the corner of this holiday lodge is right in the furthest corner of the whole holiday park, and there's nothing but field. So basically, I just sleep in a field. So it's great to have your company. It's just wonderful. Shakespearean also wrote paperbacks. Bill Wobblestick. Don't know whether you're having me on now. Thank you to all the new viewers. I don't like pressing the off button because it just goes back to normal life when I do. But there's always the reruns, and you can always binge watch over 18 months of Pop Astro Live. Thank you to Robin and to Paul for helping me and for suggesting the guests. And thank you to Simon and David. It's been a delight to have you all along. In it, Cosmo. In it. Good night.